Hello, welcome to the Scroll Ensemble Classical Music Improvisation channel. I'm Robert. This video is related to a performance next week and to an article which will come out at the end of the year about the improvising oboist in the 19th century. And one of the main ideas is, of course, how can we vary? How can we improvise variations? In this video, we will look at ideas from Shah Dup's méthode polyphonique, and this video is also the start of a challenge that I'm setting myself to hopefully get to work a bit better. Practicing regularly and practicing a new skill is always a challenge. Also for me, so I'm trying to do this challenge now every day until next week, but hopefully onwards, to be able to force myself to really practice these new skills. What do I need to work on? Learning melodies by heart. So I want the audience to be able to sing something to me, or we'll find something on YouTube and I can memorize it, or at least part of it, as quickly as possible. Then we're going to apply some variations to that. In any case, some simple ones, but let's see how far we can get. Then I have to improvise a prelude before that. That is a bit easier. I've done more of that before. And then some bridges and cadences to put all of those things together. As always, I will base myself on some historical sources. In this case, a method by Shah Dup. It's a method for military bands and wind bands. And the idea was basically that the same types of instruments, like all the instruments in C, could actually practice together and immediately work on the ensemble sound. So it's not a method for one instrument, but for all types of instruments together. In this method, there's a couple of theme and variation pieces, and they're very suitable for starting off to learn to improvise, because the variation techniques are extremely simple. It's also funny that there was this little review that I found here in 1860 in a Dutch music newspaper called Cecilia, or Cecilia, and it has a review on the method and that it's really great and that we should all use it in Holland as well. So I thought that was a funny little touch. If you like the approach I take here to improvising variations, you might also want to check out my course on Patreon. In it, I teach how to improvise simple variations based on ideas from Jacob van Eyck. Now, of course, this was a 17th century musician, but the beginning point of variations, of learning how to vary, is actually very similar to the approach here that I've distilled from Dup's method. So you might want to check it out. First on YouTube, you can see the lesson 0, and then if you are interested, you could continue on Patreon. So the first very simple ideas are variation ideas we find throughout classical music. One is to simply change the rhythm a little bit, but keep the original melody going. So instead of here, we do that. Another idea is to take one step up. Is the original melody. We can do that, and then we can also change the rhythm. And finally, we can always fill in some thirds or even other intervals as well, of course. So instead of that melody, we get that melody with a nice little change of harmony as well, but that's for later. Here we can see how these simple ideas can already lead to 3 distinct variations. The first variation uses a dotted quarter note as a main idea. The second one has this dactylus idea, and the third one uses the dotted 8th note as an idea. In the last variation piece of the method, we find some really interesting ways to really distinguish one variation from the other. So we can see in terms of articulation that there are really big differences. The original goes over the whole bar, and the first variation goes 2 by 2 with some staccato notes. Then we have the triplets, so also the rhythm starts playing a bigger role with the 2 and a staccato. Then in the minor, which is another fantastic idea, of course, an obvious idea, we suddenly have this massive slur over the whole thing. And then we have a march, which is even in another meter, but we'll see more of that in our next video. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and join us on Patreon if you can and want to. And see you in the next one.